You're listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. I'm Elena Paweta, Executive Communication Coach and TEDx organizer. With each episode, I'll share with you communication tips and ideas from top business leaders to help you excel in your career. Hello. Welcome to the next episode of Ideas and Leaders podcast. Today, I have a great guest. It is Andy McDowell. He spent 22 years with the Boeing Company, and he will speak about his leadership experience, his approach to leadership today. I'm very happy to have him today on Ideas and Leaders. Hi, Andy. Great to have you.
Great to be here with you and your audience.
Great. So, Andy, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience in Boeing, and what did you learn from all of those years of your experience, and what is your story?
Yeah, so my experience is deeper than just Boeing. My entire career span has been spent in entrepreneurship in different forms of it. So I started as an employee of two entrepreneurial companies. One of them got acquired by Boeing. Then I was tasked with building a consulting practice from scratch, from the grassroots, so to speak. And that's why I spent 22 years building that business, servicing the government market, helping governments bring GPS into their flight and ground operations as a navigational tool. And built that business. And then, unfortunately, I was one of thousands of people that was laid off because of the 737 MAX crisis within the company, and then became an entrepreneur myself, a solo entrepreneur in the leadership and small business coaching realm. So I've seen it all, or maybe not necessarily all, but I've seen a lot as it comes to entrepreneurship. The Boeing experience was very unique in that you're doing it within a giant corporation with offices and employees around the world, to include your Poland. From that perspective, traveled around the world a third to 50% of my time every year around the world, helping governments, which is its own unique experience from a leader's perspective, having to deal with different cultures, different mindsets, a different way of being around the world, and how business is conducted. So it was a fairly large learning curve from that perspective, but I wouldn't trade it for the world to have that kind of experience.
Wow, you have an amazing experience, both in you can speak both to corporate leaders and to entrepreneurs. We have both of those groups listening to us. So can you tell us a little bit about your leadership experience? And you're saying that as a leader, you felt more like a life coach than as a boss. What do you mean by that?
So it depends on your leadership style, right? So I developed a leadership style which sort of leans towards a servant leadership style, where you're putting those that work on your team at the forefront and making sure they have the right training, the right tools, the right processes, everything they need to have to be successful. And it takes a mindset to say, this is a relationship. And the relationship is much more than just, we offer you a job, you come and do your work, and you get paid a salary and benefits, like the standard business world does. It's really about, in this relationship, I want to understand your career ambitions. I want to understand what skill sets you bring. I also understand that you're investing in us as a company and our success as much as I need to invest in you as a human being that has skills and talents and desires and goals and so forth. And so I would always try to sit down when they first join the team and understand those items. And if the team member wants to go beyond business and talk about where they feel like they have weaknesses in their life or something of that nature, I wouldn't hesitate to bring that up or discuss it, as long as they enter that conversation first. It's not something I would automatically do, but if they're interested in that, I would do that as well, from that perspective. So it's really about, do you see it as an investment, or do you see it as, well, it's a privilege for you, Mr. Team Member, to be part of my team and part of this company, and do as I say and you'll be all right, and those type of conversations. So that's what I mean by, I take more of the approach as a life coach, as opposed to a, what standard typical term boss means.
Yeah. So we need to focus on the team members and on their development more than on our personal goals and what
And
we
see it as
want
an
to
investment,
achieve, right?
Yeah, it's a choice for them, right? You chose to come work for myself as a team leader in this company, and we appreciate and acknowledge and respect the choice that you have made. And therefore, we're going to invest in you hopefully as much as you're going to invest in us with your choice to come work with us.
Yeah. So what do you think is the most important in leadership, in team leadership?
So I'm a big Simon Sinek fan and his why, how, what model. So for me, it's always explaining the why. Why does the company exist? Why is it here? What is its purpose? How does a strategy fit within that? And why did we pick this particular strategy for the company? And I found in my experience, the more you explain the why or answer the question why for your team members, the more buy-in and more engagement you get from them, because they're able to see how what they do, their talents, their skills, their job title, work statement, and so forth fits in, which is just a basic human need. We all want to fit into bigger groups, have a meaning in our life, to feel like we belong to something bigger than ourselves. Are all basic human needs and tenets. And the more you can do that for their role within the business and explain why the company is doing certain things, then your chance of getting engagement out of them grows tremendously. And it's, to me, that and building other leaders. You may not be there all the time. Somebody's got to pick up the flag when you leave, for whatever the reason may be. And are you building leaders within the organization that will stay within your team and go to other parts of the company that are going to contribute, carry the flag, and deliver value to the company and to whatever employees or team members they would have underneath them, him or her. So those are the two main things for me that leadership has to do as a priority and all the time.
Yes, definitely. I love Simon Sinek as well. And very often we don't speak about the why, right? We have all those KPIs and numbers that we need to achieve. We need to do this by this time, by this date, and then nobody knows why they're doing it. So this is so important to actually explain why we want to get where we want to get, right?
Yeah, and it naturally flows into his finite and infinite game construct, right? Your purpose should be related to whatever your infinite game is. What's your long term? This company is going to exist after you leave the company, and it's going to continue on and on and on. And is your purpose just to make money and profit, or is it something bigger than that that's going to allow you to keep participating in this game forever?
Yeah. And also every team member has their own goal, their own why they're in this company. And it is very important to kind of connect what they do with their purpose. How will it help them to develop themselves, to go to the next level? So I think that those two things that you're mentioning are very much interconnected, that we can show them why, the why, and at the same time help them to develop themselves and to go to the next level.
Yeah, oftentimes when we were interviewing for a new team member, one of my direct reports would conduct most of the interview, and I would sit on it. And I always had the last question, and that was, what is your enjoyment or passion or purpose in joining an aviation company? You know, what is it about aviation that excites you? And I was looking for answers that would demonstrate passion and an affiliation with their why in life and so forth, because I knew they were always going to make the best candidates as a team member because of the underlying why, as opposed to, well, it's a great title, a great salary, it's a great company, so forth and so on. I really wanted to get to the belly of the soul per se, to understand, are they going to be a good fit for us from a why perspective?
Yeah, this is a great interview question. Yeah, I think that our listeners can incorporate that definitely. So, Andy, you have leadership experience in the corporate world and in the entrepreneurship world. Do you think that it is possible to learn to become a leader for a person who never managed a team and they don't know how to do it?
Absolutely. It's a skill that you can grow. I'm sure there are people that are so-called born leaders that have some of those tenets and traits, but that doesn't mean if you don't feel like you have that, you couldn't become a very good leader. But I'm a firm believer that we learn how to be a leader of others by being a leader of our own life and developing a right growth mindset and setting goals and being introspective of oneself and taking the challenge on head on to develop a life strategy and moving towards and growing into the person that you want to be. You're going to fall down or fall off your horse and make mistakes. You're going to learn from it, pick yourself up and get back on the horse, so to speak. And it's those lessons that you're going to learn and put in your memory bank per se. And eventually you get yourself to a point where you have self-love. You're very comfortable who you are, what your why is in life, and so forth. And so at that point, you can turn yourself 180 and start leading other people and make decisions that are going to impact their lives, but make decisions that are going to be respectful, nature of a win-win, going to be deliver value to both people or the whole set of people if it's a decision that affects a team. From that standpoint, and that's how we truly learn leadership, is by starting with ourselves, because we make decisions, theoretically only affects our own life, but you learn the lessons and how to properly do that first before you start impacting others' lives and hopefully bring a positive value to their life. And that's how I run my coaching business.
So you say that we need to start with ourselves, and what are the most important questions that we need to ask ourselves to answer in order to be ready to this leadership path?
So once again, with Simon Sinek, the why, how, what is sort of the structure for a strategy, but you have to be introspective enough to ask the question, if I'm the CEO of my life, what do I want? What do I want out of it? And that answer is very specific to every single human being on this earth. What do you want out of your life? What do you want to experience? How do you want to be in this world? You want to be kind? Do you want to be angry? Do you want to be loving? Do you want to be fearful? What is it that you want out of the life and this experience on earth, out of your life? And so that's the end goal, whatever you decide for yourself. When people ask me, how do you define success? My definition of success for me is living my why out loud. There's nothing in that statement about financial success or career success or anything of that nature. Is who do I want to be in this world? And from that, I then have to do an assessment of, okay, if I want to be this way in this world, how close am I to that? Am I far away? Am I fairly close? Am I like right on the edge? And then that sets the strategy of what work I need to do, whether it's reading books or going to a therapist or talking to people in industry or developing a mentor or something of that nature that's then going to help you move along the proper path to be that person that you want to be in this world. And that's where the self-leadership comes in, right? Is helping to develop that self-strategy and moving yourself along that path to get to be how you want to be in this world.
Yeah, yeah. And so we definitely need to start with self-leadership. And I think that it is very important to have a coach who can lead us to this point where to help us understand where we want to be, what is our why, and how can we get there. So I definitely think that it is very important. The thing that you're doing is very important to because I know that many people have issues with self-leadership. They don't have issues with managing other people, but they have problems with self-leadership. Do you feel?
Well,
do you feel this?
Tends to be an ego thing, right? It's I have the title, I have the authority, I have the accountability, I have the salary.
Yeah.
Type things, and all that's all I really care about. You know, one of the phrases I really have a hard time with and a little bit of disgust for is don't take it personally, it's just business. You know, when you lead from an ego basis and a fear basis, and it's all about title and salary and so forth, then you can easily buy into that statement, but there's no empathy or compassion or love or anything that's around that kind of statement. And that goes back to, who do you want to be in this world statement. Yeah. That's why I'm such a big believer in self-leadership. I will also say, there's a common phrase out there: it takes a village to raise a child. I'm also a firm believer it takes a village to raise a family. It takes a village to raise a company. It takes a village to raise a community. You name it, take the entity, a church, whatever. It takes a village to raise it. So it's more than just the people inside the building. It's all stakeholders, so to speak, and people that surround it need to have some kind of involvement in the achievement of goals and success in that entity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, you're speaking also about generating value. I wanted to ask you about this because it is a very important, very interesting topic for me and for our listeners as well. So how to generate value in your personal life, in your professional life? What do you understand by this, and how to do it?
So I usually answer that question in this way. As human beings, we all have needs. Food on the table, a roof over our head, to feel like we belong to something bigger than ourselves, that we're contributing somewhere in the world. And when you say that, value gets generated. You think back to the olden days when currency became a necessity, because the value used to be generated in that I have a cow and you have a chicken, and I need a cow and you need a chicken, so let's just trade. And value was exchanged, right? To eventually need became so greater that businesses were formed, and then we needed a common way to exchange the value. So I need a chicken, you need a cow. Oh no, you don't need a cow, but I have a chicken. You need a chicken, but I don't need a cow. So what do we do? And that's how currency became apart, but it all centers around value. So how are you, through your life and who you are in the world, creating value, addressing needs in the world? You know, are you going to lead your life and be something that's based out of fear or based out of love in the world? And so how do you deliver value to your spouse in the relationship? How do you deliver value to your children in the relationship you and your spouse have with your children? How do you deliver value to team members that are on your team? And it's all about understanding the needs. You know, you were talking about earlier in our interview about understanding a person's why. So how do you know if you're delivering any value to that person if you don't understand their why in life and be part of their village to help them achieve and live out their purpose or their why in life and deliver value in that way? So that's why I came up with that title for my own business, is about generating your value. And it's about looking 360 degrees around your life and where do I have the opportunities to address needs in the world and deliver value to those needs. And that's how you can understand the impact of it, understand how your leadership, both self-leadership and leadership in an organization, can start to delivering values that are 360 around that, right? So as a leader of a team, I want to understand how I can generate value in my team members' lives, but I also want to understand how my team can deliver value to organizations that sit next to me in the company, and we're all working together to achieve the goals and the why, or serve the why of our company. Because they're just as important as your own team in enabling, supporting, and allowing for your company as a whole to deliver value to the world. So it's really about a mindset, right? It's about understanding that you can have an impact in the world, and how are you generating value in it? And are you introspective enough and don't have a problem sort of stepping outside yourself and looking at yourself and asking your question, or the question every day when you get out of bed in the morning is, okay, where am I going to go generate value in the world today?
Yeah, I think that it is a great mindset to have, not to focus on what I want to do or how much do I want to earn, but to focus on how can I generate value for others? In what ways can I do this? And I think that this is a great perspective to have, definitely. So I'm sure that you have a lot of systems behind this, and of course you are helping your clients with this. But if you can give us just a glimpse for our podcast listeners, where we can start if we want to adopt this mindset, if we want to focus on generating value. So how can we start with this 360 analysis of our life to just improve the quality of our life and to feel better?
So you first have to say, this is the kind of life and the way I want to live. This is the way I want to be, and this is the way I want to lead my life, to have sort of this kind of mantra, if you will, in your life. And once you settle on that, then you have to take a starting point would be to take an assessment. Okay, where am I at? I've decided I want to live this kind of way in life, but where am I? Where's my starting point? Part of my big piece of my program is the thought process that there's a lot of overlap between life and business, because they both address needs in the world. So I took a business strategy tool that's been around for years. It's called a SWOT tool: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. And generally that's a starting point for a business strategy conversation. And it takes honest introspection and dialogue amongst those that are working on a business strategy to assess the strengths of the company and the marketplace, the weaknesses, where we have passion and opportunity to grow the business, and where do we have threats of possible disruption or chaos in our daily execution of our business to try and grow. If you take the words opportunity and threat and change them for love and fear, change opportunity with love and threat with fear, because in your personal life, where you have passions and where you have loves in your life is where those opportunities are to align what you do in terms of actions in your life that support your why in life. And then your fears are your disruptors. What's holding me back? What's disrupting my ability to move forward, to go after the life I want for myself and how I want to be in this world? You can take that simple tool, just draw a rectangle and divide it into 4 rectangles and label 1 strength, 1 weakness, 1 love, 1 fear, and just start putting some bullet items in each of those 4 for your own life concerning where you think you are at that moment. And it's a living document. You know, it may look one way 1 year, and then you sit down 12 months later and do the same analysis. Where am I in now? And it's going to have some minor changes. But just keep using that tool every year to assess where you are on your journey to be a certain way in this world and achieve certain goals. And that's where I start my customers. If I'm life coaching them or doing leadership coaching, to try and help them to see or feel where are they right now. And then from that, we can develop a strategy to get them to where they want to be. But the key to it is to be honest with yourself. Even within a business, you can do a SWOT analysis and be totally dishonest about where you truly are sitting, all to make yourself look good. And you might as well just throw it in the trash can because you were not honest in the process with an honest assessment. And therefore, what you go execute on is really not going to get you where you need to be because you weren't honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And you could even show it to others and go, that you trust, and say, I'm doing a self-assessment and this is where I think I am. What do you think? And garner some feedback on it that you might make some minor adjustments with.
Yeah, that's a great idea to ask others also, because we are not being objective when we are thinking about our business or even ourselves. So it is great to have other people's perspectives as well. Great. I think that this is a great tool to have to make our own evaluation, SWOT analysis of our businesses, of our life, also to understand our goals and where we want to be. So I really love all those tips that he gave, Andy. And just to summarize our interview, what would be the main takeaway that you would like to leave our listeners with?
2 things. In every decision that you make in your life, there is a foundational element of love and fear. So ask yourself, as you're zeroing in on this decision or a choice that you're making, ask yourself, is it more based in love or more based in fear? You always want to be on the love side, to really be a certain way in the world. And the second one is it's mindset. Your brain and your thoughts drive behaviors, which drive outcomes in your life. So if you're only going to work on one thing that we've discussed in this interview, for me, it would be mindset, because it's a driving force in everything that you do. Going back to that, show your you have to call it an SWLF instead of a SWOT. You show it to somebody else. Sometimes you think it's a weakness and you show it to other people and go, no. You're diminishing yourself. You're not objectively looking at who you are and what you do. It's really a strength, not a weakness from that standpoint. So Those would be the two things to summarize that I would like to leave people with through this conversation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Andy. And if our listeners want to contact you and to know more about your leadership coaching, where can they find you?
Main way to find me is at my website, www.generateyourvalue.com. From that perspective, you can gain access to a podcast that I do with a co-host. We talk about life, leadership, and business issues for entrepreneurs or corporate leaders. From that perspective, and I'm also on the 4 major platforms. Just search my name or my business name, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc.
Perfect.
So
perfect.
I'm out there. You can find me easily.
Great, great. All of those information will be in our show notes, so that our listeners can immediately go there and contact you. Thank you very much, Andy. It was a pleasure having you on Ideas and Leaders and talking to you.
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation, and I hope that I generated some value in your life as well as your listeners today.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Ideas and Leaders podcast. Did you enjoy this episode? Let me know that you listened by tagging me in your LinkedIn profile and using a hashtag Ideas and Leaders. See you in the next episode.